All right. Thank you everyone for being here. Go ahead if you would like and type in the chat where you're from. Let us know how far apart we all are, yeah, but close together today. So feel free to go ahead and do that. And I wanted to start us off with a reminder, it's not just about the food. I've been talking about that in the emails leading up to this, and we're going to dive into that much deeper. But to start us off, since not everybody knows who I am, I'm going to give you a little bit of background before we get started. And who am I? All right, I am a health and wholeness coach, and I have 30 years of experience in natural medicine in the nutrition field. And that's actually working with supplements, working with people, uh, not just spending 20 years getting a degree or, something like that. I have actually been, working with all of that. And I have a BA in Christian education. Yes, that comes out in what I share. God is foremost and comes back around in most conversations. I'm the author of 4 books. You will see their covers on there. My most recent is Healing God's Temple. And I've also led over 10 guided retreats, and of course have done my own retreats more times than I could possibly count at this point. And so we're going to just spend, this is just a little background information, and now we're going to just dive into sharing some of the content. And part of that is, why is it not just about food? Why is it not necessarily calories in, calories out that we have been, told ad nauseum forever? Basically, it's too simplistic. It's not that simple. There is way more to that. Each of us has, a God-given body that is unique. What each of us needs, or how, each of us could react to different foods or things, is unique to us. We'll have maybe some similarities with other people that we run into, that oh, you react to that too, kind of thing, especially if you're related to them. That's even more common. But everything doesn't match. It's a variety. It's a variety of different reactions that each one of us have, a different need that each one of us has. So what foods are healthy? I mean, first off, by asking that question, you're assuming that everybody is on the same page on that score. So why don't you type in the chat, what's something you would consider a healthy food? And while you're typing, I will keep talking. Yes, that's an example of one that we regularly think of as healthy. What else? Anybody else? Coconut oil? Yeah, that's another good one. Parsnip. Veggies, yes, absolutely. There's lots of things, and basically the things that were mentioned are actually things that are healthy. We're not completely off base on what we think is healthy. I didn't have anybody putting, bacon or something like that in the line. So good. We kind of have at least an understanding that we're, kind of on the same page about what we consider healthy. But what is healthy for you? What is healthy for me and what is healthy for you could be, 2 different things. And part of that is what I talked about before about our bodies being unique. And little personal background story. I mean, I have some foods that don't necessarily agree with me, and rice being one of them that has, maybe a little bit's okay, but there's like a fine line, and then my gut's not happy. And I am not the only one in the world that applies to, and you may have something else. I also have some issues with dairy. I get more mucus if I have too much, dairy in my diet, and you may have something similar to that. Now, what are a couple of things that you have learned about your body? I mean, obviously short answers. um, that you have learned that is unique to you, or that, okay, I need to avoid this, or I need to, this is just not working with me, and therefore I'm not going to be eating it, or this is really good for me. Any examples of that anybody wants to share in the chat? Yeah, lots of times people don't have trouble with gluten. That is a common one. And milk products. Like I mentioned, yeah, dairy can be very problematic. And as my dad used to say, nobody has ever really tested that well most of the time on cow's milk. They tested, but he said he hadn't tested any baby cows. So that's kind of who God designed to actually eat that. As adults, we're not necessarily designed to have those things. And lots of times people have found that particular things just, don't do well for them. I know I personally have, that there are some things that don't work. So how does this relate to the whole, weight loss and weight gain conversation? What causes weight gain? Now, actually, one of the big things that causes weight gain is, not number one, food. I would say number one, stress. Why is stress a problem? We shut off our brains, I swear. We shut off the thinking part of our brains when we get stressed, and try to, throw food on the fire when, we don't necessarily need it. And pretty much people have kind of two different reactions. Is that on stress is this like either they will eat a whole lot, or they will maybe not eat anything. There's kind of two different ends of that stress comparison. And which one have you guys noticed? Do you tend to eat when you're in a stressful situation, or do you tend to just buckle down and not even think about food? Eat. Yep, definitely a stress eater. Yep. I know most of the time I fall into that category myself. It's just, it's so easy. It's like it's a default that we try to fall into. And number two actually kind of relates a little bit with the stress, is lack of sleep. Obviously, stress can also cause a lack of sleep. But why is this a problem when it comes to weight? What happens the next day after you've had a bad night's sleep? Type in the chat. What happens after a bad night's sleep? We've all been there. I know I have. You're feeling tired. You're starting to drag. And you try to pick yourself up. You try to eat something. You try to get sugar, caffeine. you don't do things. Yeah, you don't feel like you have the energy to, do basic things like go take a walk, don't feel like exercising. And you proportionally will end up eating more food after that than you would normally eat. When you think about it and you're going, oh, why did I do that? Why did I eat that much? And it's like, it's because you're just trying to keep yourself awake and your body's going, I just need a nap. I just need a nap. Okay, so another thing that can cause, which we won't dive into super deep today, is toxicity, is our third cause of weight gain. When we have things going on in our bodies that it's either an internally produced toxins, we produce toxins just from the processes that our body does, the breaking down of old cells, and, the obviously eating, all of these things produce self-made, toxins, which normally are eliminated properly, but if not, they can accumulate. And then, of course, we have external toxins like things in the atmosphere, things on your food, like pesticides or additives in our foods if we're not keeping on that healthy foods. So those are, some ways toxicity, we can have toxicity, and therefore if it's not eliminating, because of course your first, okay, your primary organ of elimination is your gut. If that's not working right, then it's not getting out. Urinary also. Skin. If you got skin problems, it's because something is trying to get out of your system. And that is just, you've got a pile up going on. And if you improve things on the first line of elimination, then, the skin problems usually also clear up. But that's a side note. Number 4 on what causes weight gain: hormones. Why are hormones sometimes an issue? Type in the chat if you have any ideas on this. Why are hormones sometimes an issue with weight? And it depends on the hormones. I mean, some hormones can be more problematic than others. Sometimes thyroid can trigger things like if it's overactive and you're eating too much, kind of if you're sluggish and stuff like that, then, your metabolism is slowed down and you're not burning as well. And some people, if their hormones aren't well balanced, which tends to happen around menopause, then that can also throw off a little bit your body's. It's not that you can't lose weight, it's just that you may need to balance the hormones first before that actually works. So, and then my, excuse me, my 5th cause of weight gain is overeating. It is part of the picture, obviously not the entire picture. However, what leads to the overeating lots of times is the stress, is the lack of sleep. A lot of those things trigger us, and then we will start eating, and obviously that doesn't help matters, but we try to fill ourselves up because we feel like there's something missing. And usually it's it's emotional. It's something where we're not happy about a given situation, and so we've either got a knot down inside or something where we're just it has nothing to do with the food. Food is just what we try to use to solve a problem that wasn't related to food in the first place. And that's why it's not just about, what we're eating. Obviously, healthy food, is always a good idea, but it's also about the way you're eating. And so when you're stressed, guess what? The food is just sitting there. The food is just sitting there. You're not digesting. And that's because when your body is in a stress response, it's getting ready to flee from something. It either is going to stand and fight or it's going to run for the hills. And neither of those is requiring digestion at that moment. So the blood supply is reduced to your gut so that you're not, it's not there for you to digest food. It's out in your extremities so that you can run for the hills. So you don't actually have the ability to digest in that moment very well until you calm down, breathe. Then you're more able to digest your food. And so that's another reason why I actually picked stress as number one, is because it's so key to our being able to process. If we're trying to, fill ourselves up when we're stressed, not only does it solve the problem, it creates another problem because you've got food sitting in there not being digested. So it's kind of, it also, many ways, it interferes with our ability to actually lose weight. It's kind of the same philosophy that, if you're concerned about water retention, you need to probably be drinking more water. Because as long as your body thinks there's a scarcity on something, it's going to hang on to it. So if it's worried about where your next meal is coming from, it's going to store in fat. It's going to hang on to everything. And that is obviously the last thing you want to have happening. But it's what your body will automatically want to do when it's stressed. So when it's stressed is when you want to actually think about sitting down. How are you eating? There's multiple positions we can be eating in, sitting, standing, multitasking in either one of those positions. What's the most common way that you tend to eat? Sitting, standing, doing more than one thing at once. I know I like to multitask. I'm usually sitting though, mostly. What are some of the positions? Sitting, often reading. I know it's kind of the multitasking, reading is generally not as stressful. But at the same time, you're not focusing on your food. It's very interesting what your digestion actually begins with your eyes and with your mouth. It begins when you're looking at your food. It begins when it first hits your taste buds. Your body sends signals that says, oh, you're going to need XYZ to digest this. And so it will start the process. Not only do you have the saliva starting the process, assuming you're actually chewing the food you're eating, which is another important part of how you're eating, chewing your food thoroughly. But if you're just not focused on it, your body isn't able to just go, oh, this is good food. I like this, and oh, I think I need this to help me digest this, otherwise I'll probably just sit down there. And also that the other part of this, our multitasking thing is that we will be, not only are we not thinking about the food we're eating, but we're also not aware we've been eating. So we will actually be eating and look down and realize I ate all of that. This is particularly dangerous when you have snacking and you have a whole bag of something and all of a sudden realize that you ate the entire bag. I've been there. And it's easy to do if we're not thinking about our food. It's much easier to eat more than we need when we're not even thinking about it. The relaxing while we're eating and not being, not doing anything that's going to stress us out. Never eat while you're watching the news. It just, it's a bad idea, really bad idea. And I know that, over 20 years ago, and my family, we had gotten in the habit of, sitting down just in chairs around the TV, at dinner time and just eating there. Whenever we'd haul in from our very long day of work, and not even, sitting at the dining room table. And Dad decided to change that and said, okay, we're going to actually sit down for dinner. We are going to actually share a devotional or something like that. I don't know if we'd started that back originally, but we did eventually, where we did, prayer time and some devotions at the end of our meal. But we always, started the meal by praying. Now, not only is it helpful to be thankful and thankful to God for our food, but it also slows us down. It also makes us get present and stop, breathe for a second before we start, inhaling the food. And so that is beneficial actually, to our digestion. If you want to just relax and, be in that moment, I know it's hard to do sometimes, especially lunchtime. It's like we're rushed from one thing to the next, and we don't always have an abundance of time, to eat. But the more relaxed we are, the better we digest, and the less likely we are to our bodies decide to turn that into fat. And the more we can, just kind of try to control that as far as stopping, breathing, thanking God for the food. Breathe in and out 20 times before you start eating if you know that your body is stressed before you even start. I know it might look funky, in a restaurant to do that, but you can certainly do it at home. And it actually will lower your blood pressure. It will get you present with your food, and it will allow you to just be in that moment. And that is the best thing you can do for your digestion. And a lot of these little things can be key in helping us to lose weight without really trying to lose weight. I mean, we're not saying, okay, we're going on XYZ, diet. No, we're not even talking about that right now. We're just talking about, when are we eating when we're not hungry? What's causing us to eat when we're not hungry? And just taking care of our bodies in that way because our bodies are important. God dwells in us as Christians, and if we are his temple, then he does care about what we do with our bodies. And that care can be in walking, that care can be in giving it healthy food, and that care can also be in slowing down, praying for our food, breathing in and out a few times so that we can actually digest the food that we are eating. Now, I will also have a Q&A time at the end for those that want to stick around, but I wanted to go ahead. Obviously, this is just a small picture of what we can go into in this area and talking about taking care of our bodies and weight loss without really having to try. And so I want to remind you that, the Prosper event is coming up, and that is going to have so much more content than I can share in a short period of time today. And we will go deeper on this. We will go into other things, not just what I shared today. We will go spend more time on the why we're doing this. And the Prosper event is about you being able to overcome fear with faith. And we will dive into that on another call leading up to the big event. And finding peace and freedom in God, and about losing weight without trying. And so today we talked about kind of that latter part, that health part, which actually is a big chunk of our content next week. And it's online. Remember, you don't have to go anywhere or do anything. You can just watch it all from the comfort of your own home. And the tickets are still available. It's just $47 a ticket now. And to claim your ticket, go ahead and go to that address. It's in the chat and it was on the slide. And of course, it's in the emails that I keep sending. That gives you a little more information on the event, and also gives you the way to get a ticket, of course. And so we would love for you to come and join us. We want this to be an interactive experience where everybody is participating. This is not limited to ladies necessarily. It's, men that want to come will be coming as well. And you can even do it with a family member or spouse. It's entirely up to you. If they're not, excessively on board, then maybe easier to lead by example. But it is an option and always beneficial to do things together. So if you have a friend, you already have a ticket, but you have a friend that you'd love to have do it with you, encourage them to do that. Feel free to share that link with them. Now, I do want to go ahead and open things up for some Q&A. If people have some questions, either you can type it in the chat, or you can actually also raise your hand down in the more thing at the bottom of your screen. I think there is a reactions area that will give you the option to raise your hand if you want to actually unmute and ask a question directly, but feel free to type it in the chat. And we were just waiting to see if anybody is typing in the chat, if anybody has any further questions. And giving people time to type. And obviously we will be planning on another call this coming Friday, and we will be going into the overcoming fear with faith aspect of things. And this is just a preview. This is just a small section of what all we will be talking about actually at the event. So this is just to give you a taste and let you see what it will be like. Any questions? And I am going to go ahead and stop.